Hey, folks, we're going to look at chapter 10 in Huston Smith's The World's Religions. It's called The Final Examination. Let's go. So he opens the chapter with a few guiding questions, which break up the preceding chapter. The first question being, how are we to gestalt or pattern the religions we have considered? So, first one, considering patterns. Second one, have they anything to say collectively to the world at large? And the third, how should we comport ourselves in a world that is religious, pluralistic, where it is religious at all? So in the first section of this chapter, he's answering that first question about how to make a pattern or see the relationship between the religions, how to organize them. The first option being superiority or, ranking them or something like that. And he says that this book in particular eschews comparisons on principle. So he says that's not his approach. And then another one, which also doesn't feel accurate, at least entirely, in his approach, is to say that all religions are basically alike. And one often hears the example of the golden rule, that it's somewhere in all the world's wisdom traditions, but just articulated a little differently. And he says this appeals to our human togetherness, but it is a little too reductive because how we articulate our beliefs, what concepts are essential versus negotiable, this argument has split pretty much all the world's major religions. So he has a preference for this third approach to understanding and organizing the world's religions. And he says it's kind of like one light, many windows. It's like maybe the stained glass window, that there's different colors and different ways to see it, different images, maybe different symbols, but it's all one light shining through different windows. So that's his kind of theology and methodology coming through. And the next slide is actually a clip of him sharing a little bit more on his theology and approach.
And by transcendence, you mean?
By transcendence, I mean there is a perfect being which embodies all the positive qualities that we experience in this life. Let's tick them off. Intelligence, compassion, creativity, the classical virtues of beauty, truth, and goodness. All of these virtues that we experience are like fingers pointing at the moon being that transcendence. Now, the finger never reaches the moon, but it's very important in pointing in the right direction.
So in the book, throughout the book and in this final chapter, he makes the point that modernity really put religion against science, but now 3 centuries later, we realize that religion goes where science can't, and science is helpful in so many ways, but there's some really valuable wisdom in all the world's religions. So he says we see these common themes, these ethics themes, virtue and vision. And he says for ethics, he says that it's summed up well in the Decalogue in the Old Testament, the 10 Commandments. And he mentions, our lives would be better if we all refrain from murder, thieving, lying, and adultery. And I have some quibbles, but okay. The second one is virtue, and that's his second umbrella framework for understanding the similar offerings across the world religions. And he says that so many of the world's religions have these similar virtues and value them highly: humility, charity, and veracity. And veracity being able to like see the truth or see the reality. He says the capacity to see the things as they are. And for vision, you see, he explains this as all the religions say that there is a pattern, it's beautiful, we are a part of it, and still we can't really see the whole thing. We can't see it in its fullness. And his quote, to summarize it, it says, things are more integrated than they seem, they are better than they seem, and they are more mysterious than they seem. In the final chapter, it's really brief. He says, daily the world grows smaller, leaving understanding the only place where peace can find a home. And he's just really saying, like, answering that last question of what do we do now that we've studied the world religions? And he says that practical lesson is just to listen. As we talked about in the previous slide, he talks about the modern resistance to religious wisdom. And this makes me think about academic methodologies and how the march of time has shaped discourse and theology and the social sciences at large. And while he published this book in 91, and it was originally, if you didn't notice, originally written as The Religions of Man in 1958, definitely feels and reads as modern to me, this world religions book. But this ending feels like a little nod, to a postmodern approach. And it makes me wonder if objective truths about culture are a cornerstone of modernity and empirical lists exemplify it as such. I wonder if there is a postmodern methodology for studying world religions. Maybe you all have thought about this too. Is there a postmodern approach that transcends the empirical list as it is gathered, organized, and prioritized by one person? I don't know, but I'm asking. It seems tricky. We need the list for world religions, don't we? We need that list. How to order it seems like a question regardless. A friend in this class said something like, I don't want to read a book about Huston Smith. Like, I want to read a book about the world religions, which makes sense. But I also kind of realized that even if we weren't thinking about Huston Smith throughout the full chapters of this book, if he was still very present in guiding us through the material. So anyway, it's just some wonderings. Meanwhile, this last chapter just really charmed the pants off me. It's just got the virtues he extols. It's humble and compassionate, and I really do believe he's doing his best to get it right. And I think if he could do this discussion with us of postmodern ways of organizing and sharing information about the world's wisdom traditions, I think he totally would. So yeah, Huston Smith's been with us this whole time. Isn't that fun? So here's some more fun facts about him as an individual. A According to this New York Times article, he dabbled in psychedelics with Aldous Huxley and Timothy Leary. Fun facts. And he also, this one's fun for me, he married Henry Nelson Wyman's daughter. And if you don't know Wyman, he is an awesome theologian. He's one of my faves. He's a process theology. He popularized process theology in the US. He was in the Chicago school at the turn of the 20th century. And then his daughter marries Huston Smith in 1943. Amazing. And he was survived by her when he died at the old age of 97. Amazing. Look at them. So cute. So with that, I just wanted to leave you with a last fun fact. Huston Smith's favorite prayer, written by a 9-year-old whose mother had found this prayer scribbled on a piece of paper beside his bed. And it says, "Dear God, I'm doing the best I can." So sweet. I wish you all the best on your finals season and your journeys through seminary. Well done. We're almost there.